Hello my friends, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our wonderful brain and a little bit about its neuroscience on a kindergarten level. That's my level. I find this knowledge really useful in helping us understand some of our reactions, some of our responses and behaviors, and also help us understand why it's really useful to use various grounding, self-soothing, emotional regulation techniques, and why we need to do that in order to tackle any long-term issue with anxiety, trauma, any mental health issues, why it's so essential for us to learn those skills in grounding, self-soothing, relaxation. So hopefully it will be useful. So here is our lovely brain. Let's go and have a look on the inside. So I've made this lovely felty model for you. Our brain doesn't actually look like this. It doesn't have this blue and green and red section. But it's helpful for us to divide it into these sections so that we can more easily see and understand what's going on. So let's have a look at different sections. So the red bit, this is our brainstem, or the so-called reptilian brain. My teacher Gwyneth Moss very aptly calls it the croc brain. So here is a little croc. This is a very instinctual brain. This is the part of the brain that ensures our survival. It's our instincts, it's our blood circulation, digestion, our heartbeat. Any bodily functions that happen automatically are directed by the reptilian brain, by the croc brain. And there's our little crocodile. So this is a very ancient part of the brain that's been there for a long time, and its job to help your body survive, to help the organism survive. So survival is the primary function. And you may have heard of such a thing as fight, flight, freeze. So here we have fight, flight, freeze. That's one of our instincts. So when we're in danger, we run away, or we fight the danger, or we freeze in order to save ourselves. We can also add another F. There is a flop, and also some people add another F, fawn. That might relate to, if you know somebody who is a super people pleaser, or maybe you sometimes do that yourself. When we please people to our detriment, that can be related to fawning. And some people will add an extra F for fornicate, or another word, which also lives in that part of the world, part of the brain. This is the part that is responsible for all our instincts and our survival. So that's the croc brain. The next bit, the green bit, is the so-called limbic system, or mammal brain. So we can call it a dog brain. There it is. There's a cute little dog that's going to sit here. So this is our mammal brain. This is more recent in evolutionary sense. This is younger brain. And this part of the brain is responsible for our emotions. If you have a dog, or ever had a dog, or if you know a dog, you will know that they're quite emotional creatures. They can be happy, they can be sad, they can be anxious, they can be jealous, they can be shy, whilst the crocodile doesn't really have any emotions. It only has instincts. So if you have a pet crocodile, and look, this is quite cute. If you have a pet baby crocodile and you feed it and look after it and cuddle it, eventually when it grows big enough, it will still want to eat you. That crocodile is not going to love you ever. I'm sorry. However, this little doggy, of course the doggy will love you. That's what doggies are brilliant at. So this part of the brain is responsible for our emotions and our social connections, our bonding, our loving feelings of friendship, and that part of the brain is not one green blob, by the way. There's many different parts within it, but just for simplicity we're only going to have a look at a couple of the parts. Oh, before we do that, we'll actually briefly mention this is the human brain, the blue bit. This is the clever part of the brain that can make shopping lists and go to work and earn money and use the internet and fill things in your diary. So all the clever bits like science and literature and all the things that humans can do and animals cannot do live in this part of the brain. And here is the human for you. He looks a little bit wild. I'm not sure what's he like with maths and literature, but he will already have this human part of the brain. Oh, he's not standing upright. He might fall over, but anyway, he's upright for the moment. So so it is the thinking brain, the human brain, the neocortex. So that's where our logic resides, our common sense resides, and without it we would be not so different from other mammals, which may or may not be such a good thing. So let's have a look at a couple of parts of the limbic system. So the yellow thing with a tail that lives partly in the limbic system and partly in neocortex, the human brain. This is the hippocampus. It's supposed to look like a seahorse, but obviously my artistic skills didn't stretch so far. My hippocampus doesn't look like a seahorse. But the important thing that there it is, cuddling with the little orange thing, and the little orange thing is the amygdala. You may well have heard about the amygdala and how important it is, but I will say a few words about it. So amygdala is our emergency control center. Amygdala lets us know whether we need to go into the fight, flight, freeze. So it gathers information from other parts of the brain. So for example, if a tiger walks into your room right now, or there is an earthquake, or you look through the window and see an alien ship landing, your amygdala will go, danger, 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 and you'll get rescue helicopters flying, and you'll get the police, and you'll get ambulances, and everybody's coming, and fire engines, and everybody's coming and trying to deal with the danger. So all the hormones in our body will fire up. The stress hormones, the cortisol, adrenaline will fire up to help us escape the danger, either run away or fight the danger or freeze, and hopefully the tiger will not eat us up. So amygdala, even though it's tiny, it's kind of almond-shaped tiny little thing. We have one in each half of the brain, in each hemisphere. It's really, really powerful. When amygdala decides that we are in danger, it will call upon all the rescue services. The whole body will prepare for fight, flight, freeze, which is not a bad thing, because if we're crossing the road and the bus is approaching, we do need to run away. If a mugger is trying to steal our bag, we may want to fight them, or maybe not. We may want still to run away, depending. If a tiger is walking through the jungle and you're hiding behind the tree, you do want to freeze so that you're not noticed by the tiger. So these are all really important survival mechanisms. However, what happens for those of us who experience chronic stress, maybe stress over a long period of time, especially in childhood, or those of us who had quite a few, or sometimes maybe just one-off traumatic experience or big shock, especially in early life. What happens, our little amygdala becomes very sensitive, and what it does, it starts responding to little things as if they're big threats. So for example, you may be sitting in a cafe with a friend, and the person at the next table looks at you, and they might not be looking at you in any particular way, they may be just glancing past you, but that look might trigger their amygdala to go, danger, danger, rescue helicopters, fire engines, ambulances, police. So small things, maybe small arguments, small difficulties, those difficulties that may be perceived as small by other people could become overwhelming and terrifying for those of us whose amygdala has become sensitive because of chronic stress and trauma. In fact, the research shows that in those people who have experienced this adversity, amygdala tends to grow bigger. So not only it's sensitive, it also enlarges, so it's even more powerful. And just a couple of words about the hippocampus. Hippocampus is a wondrous thing. This is the part of the brain that's very important in processing memories, especially emotional memories. So normally if something unpleasant happens, so I don't know, if there was an earthquake or volcanic eruption, we don't get that many of those in the UK, but just in case, if there was, and you would be obviously maybe quite scared, quite distressed, some of your precious possessions might be broken, the house might need repairs, so it's obviously a really distressing event. However, if the hippocampus is able to do his job properly, after a little while, days, weeks, maybe a couple of months, those distressing memories will stop being so intense and so vivid, and gradually they will recede and just become a memory, even though obviously it wasn't a very nice one. However, the problem is when our amygdala is oversensitive and when it fires off a lot of the time, when it fires off frequently under chronic stress, it really affects the hippocampus, and what happens, it cannot do its job properly, and it doesn't process our emotional experiences as well as it should do, which means that those experiences sort of hang around with us. So some people might get flashbacks, visual flashbacks of what happened maybe a long time ago or recently. Those flashbacks and vivid recollections indicate that those memories have not been filed away properly. Some people get emotional flashbacks, so these are periods of very, very strong, intense emotions that are more than the situation might merit. When you think, oh, why am I overreacting like this? When really, really intense emotion comes and you're not quite sure why, or it feels too strong for the circumstances. So that could be described as an emotional flashback. Again, it could be an indication that the hippocampus wasn't able to do his job properly. So you can think of it as hippocampus being like an office clerk whose job it is to file away the documents and put a date stamp on them. But when the amygdala is oversensitive and all that stream of stress hormones is flowing in the body, hippocampus gets really affected by that. Just imagine our office clerk was drunk and had a hangover, so he can't really do his job properly. He's trying to file away these documents into the archive somewhere, but he's not fast enough he's forgetting to put the date stamp on the documents. And so the paperwork is all in disarray. It's not filed away in the filing cabinets. It's everywhere, on the table, on the desk, on the floor, in the wrong order. So you can imagine that being similar to how those unprocessed memories could be all jumbled up and popping up as images or emotions or body sensations at various inconvenient moments. So that's one of the reasons that our job, one of our biggest jobs in healing, in any form of healing, whether we're healing anxiety, depression, trauma, addiction issues, most kind of issues, our main job is to help amygdala calm. If you've been experiencing emotional mental health issues for a while, there's a good chance that your amygdala can be quite sensitive and will respond really intensely and fast to things that are not always threatening, not actually threatening. So one of our tasks is to teach the amygdala that certain situations are not threatening. So when we practice the grounding, the self-soothing techniques, the self-regulation techniques, in that process we help the amygdala calm, and we help the hippocampus to begin to process all that emotional material, all those memories that haven't been processed correctly. So that's why often when you have some healing, some therapy, practice meditation, you might get some vivid dreams, because that's hippocampus is on the job and trying to shift those fragments of memories, maybe in metaphorical form, if that's in the dream, and it's working really, really hard. So our job is to help the amygdala and hippocampus to do their job. And what I've forgotten to say, when amygdala is so agitated, so aroused, especially chronically, what happens, our human brain pops out. Doesn't physically pop out, but what happens, our human brain cannot operate properly. So you might have noticed when you're anxious, when you're in shock, when you're really upset, it's really hard to think logically. It's hard to remember things. It's hard to focus. So all the functions of our clever human brain are affected. You might be forgetful, you might be more disorganized than usual. So this is the effect of our poor stressed amygdala and inefficient hippocampus on our human brain. So if you've been having a stressful period in your life, and you feel that your memory is going, you can't focus, your concentration is rubbish, that may well be the cause. So we'll put this clever human back in his place. Oops. So that's a little bit about the brain. I will just say literally 2 words about the 2 hemispheres and one other little part of the brain. So you will have heard about the left and right hemispheres. So let's say this is the left hemisphere, the blue one, and this is the right hemisphere. And you may have heard various things about it. The left hemisphere is more logical, the right hemisphere is more creative, and there's various arguments about whether there is actually such a division or whether things are much more homogeneous. It doesn't matter. For our purposes, we just know there's a left and right hemisphere, and there is a little part of the brain. Let's put a little bridge here. So it's not as big as this in comparison to the brain, but I'm just putting a little bridge there to make it look important, because it is. So there is a part of the brain called corpus callosum, and it does act like a bridge or like a motorway between the 2 hemispheres. And also, like hippocampus, it plays a really important role in transporting information between different parts of the brain. So hippocampus and corpus callosum working together. They move the information, our experiences, the events that happen in our life, any information gathered by our sense organs. They transport the information from the limbic system of the right brain into the neocortex of the left brain. That's where emotional information that's been processed is going to be stored. And like hippocampus, corpus callosum is also affected by the stress, by those stress hormones, by amygdala getting over-aroused, agitated. And corpus callosum also will not work very well. It will be like a blocked bridge or blocked motorway that will not allow that free movement of information. So just another reason for us to work on those self-regulation, on those grounding techniques and skills. It is a really important skill for life. So I think I've said everything I wanted to say about the brain. Thank you to all our little characters that played part. Okay, I think they will come and do a little bow, a little bow, a little bow, a little bow from the croc. Okay, here we are, and here is our brain. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions or comments or corrections, please let me know. Take care and goodbye.